Hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you guys about Teyana Taylor and Iman Shrumpet. Is it Shrumpet? One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mess up somebody's name. You know who I'm talking about. Anyway, listen, I'm going to say Iman. They have obviously broken up and separated. And I wanted to do a video to talk about the 7-year itch because they've reached the 7th year in their marriage. 10 years together, but 7 years married. And unfortunately, they've come to a place where now they are separated. Not divorced yet, they're separate. So there's still hope that this can be recovered and this can come back full circle and it can reconnect. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because why is it that they're great friends? And I'm going to read her statement in a second or two. They're great friends, they're great, co-parenters, etc., but they're separated. What is happening that causes people to separate amicably, quote unquote, in some shape or form? At least that's what's being told to us. And they are able to still perform their duties well, but they're separated. Like there's not a final divorce yet. They haven't finished yet. What brings us to that particular place? And I want to keep it real and keep it buck and have some real conversation in the next few minutes. Before I go deeper, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Please, we're trying to get to 100K by the end of the year. We're trying to do the impossible. You know what I mean? I'm trying to do the impossible because we like to do the impossible. And for you guys helping me, it's going to become possible. So make sure you guys like, you share, and you subscribe and get us to 100K as well. If you also around the channel, you can also join our membership as well. We have Tuesday nights, every other Tuesday night membership live. I believe we have one this tonight as well, so get ready for that. Great content as well. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. Stay hydrated because streets out there hot. Let's talk a little bit about the situation, Iman and Teyana. What's happening? I'm going to do a two-part on this because the second part I'm going to talk about the fact that I believe they had a threesome. They were talking about a threesome, and I believe that similarly enough, just like dealing with our brother who was in Belwood DeVoe, Ronnie, and his wife, I've forgotten her name now. They invited somebody into the bedroom. That caused an issue. That caused a separation. That caused her to explore her wanting to like women, and that caused the insecurity for the relationship, especially for Ronnie. I wonder if the same things happened here for Iman and Teyana, because when I do part 2, there was a post that was put on where Teyana was grabbing a girl's bum, who's her friend, Drea Michelle, and he got a little bit frustrated about that. And he actually put a post up saying he was sorry for the way he reacted online, which tells me something. I've never felt some way about any of my girlfriends, even, kiss their girl on a friend on the cheek, grab their butt or whatever. Sometimes even kiss on the lip. And you don't even care. You know why? Because you know your girl doesn't orientate that way. But if you know your girl's open to that and orientates that way, and if you've also done stuff within your course of your relationship, like I always say, insecurity can be built in that place. But that's for part 2. Let's read a statement. Let's have a conversation about the 7-year itch, and I'll explain what it is. The 7-year itch just talks about it's not real. It's a myth, right? Let's just put it that straight away. The 7-year itch is a phrase that comes up in conversation. It comes up with people when they're discussing why people break up and stuff. And basically what it means is people reach a point where in their point of relationship, usually around a 7-year mark, where it's a culmination of all the problems coming into a particular point, and it causes the relationship to break down. Like all the issues that have been coming up reach a particular point, it's at the 7-year mark, and then suddenly couples can't make it beyond that point and they break up, right? So they either realize the relationship isn't working, or they're not satisfied, or they must separate because this isn't for me anymore. I've changed what I want and it no longer seems to be you, right? But again, this is a myth. It is not real. It is based upon, I think it was a film by Marilyn Monroe, I think back in the day, which mentions about the 7-year itch. So it's not a real thing, but there are some aspects to it which are truly tangible, right? Relationships do reach a point in time between 4 and 7 years that do actually begin to feel more pressure. After the honeymoon phase is done, and you've gone beyond that point where you no longer see with pink rose tinted glasses, the adrenaline, the cortisol goes, and the dopamine rush for meeting your partner the first time. When that all subsides and you're left with no longer the chemicals, but now actually decisions to make, and actually not the feeling of love, but actually making decisions to love, and actually where you have to spend time to make time. So you have to spend time to actually create more intimacy. You have to input more to create more output. Because the pleasure plateau has reached, and pleasure plateau means basically when I reach a certain level of pleasure and I have it for a period of time, I get used to it. The only way I can get that same high is if I go higher. So pleasure plateau in relationships happen, right? You get married, it's a pleasure plateau. You have kids, it's a pleasure plateau. You get a new job, it's a pleasure plateau. You buy a new car, it's a pleasure plateau. Like you get to a certain point where it hits a point and you want to go higher again. You want to go higher again. And that happens in relationships. But when you hit that plateau of a relationship where it becomes, people get complacent, people get comfortable, people get into a routine, that's where you're in the most dangerous place, because other new things, shiny things can begin to distract and cause issues for people and cause what we call dissatisfaction, right? So it's important to work on communication styles, listening skills, quality time, a lack of empathy, work on your reduced pair bonding time. Kids add pressure, finances add pressure, changes in faith or beliefs or attitudes add pressure, your goals, new goals and ambitions add pressure. These are all different factors that can begin to hit the vehicle of your relationship that can sway you and take you off the path of you staying together. The 7-year itch really just describes the fact that there's a culmination of those issues coming to a point, right? Going back onto Tiana Taylor's statement, let's read what she says. She says, I, not too much on my bestie. In all fairness, Iman and I are separated and have been for a while. To be 1,000% clear, infidelity ain't one of the reasons for our departure. We are still the best of friends and great business partners, and are one hell of a team when it comes to co-parenting our two beautiful children. Most importantly, we are family. And in the 10 years, 7 years married, we ain't ever played with or about that. We just keep your asses out the group chat, lol, which is the reason we've been able to successfully, peacefully separate without all of the outside noise. The only reason I'm even addressing only reason I'm even sharing this part of the chat is because the narratives are getting a little bit out of hand. It's unfair to all parties involved. I hope this provided some clarity for y'all. Okay, Ante, taking y'all back out the chat. Bye. Now, of course, it had to be Teyana who came up with that, because obviously, if our boy Iman came out, probably people wouldn't believe him that he didn't cheat, because we just saw there was some. I think there was a video that was kind of circulating of him in a bathroom with some ladies, and you can see him behind as well, right? So they've been separated for a little while. He's out there with other women, enjoying himself. The key thing I want to ask about this is that 7-year itch is about dissatisfaction, right? Lack of emotional and physical intimacy, poor communication, increased conflict but bad resolutions, contemptuous thoughts, keeping secrets, lack of pair bonding, right? Time, taking each other for granted, a lack of trust or breaking of trust, fantasizing and flirting with infidelity. One of the things that is really important that I want to see, I was like, wait, what's going on? Why did Tiana Taylor and Iman break up? It just broke up because they're no longer good enough for each other. Well, then there must have been something that was driving them away from each other. If they were compatible, which means long-term objectives and goals are in alignment, what would cause you to break up? Because if your chemistry was also on point, you shouldn't be falling by the wayside. Something has to have shifted and changed in the compatibility goals area, right? So, your faith or your finances or where you look at kids, or your major career changes, etc., etc. Something's had to have happened in these areas that's made this relationship now derail. But it's derailed to a point where you guys can still be cool, still be friends, and no beef. And that's what I'm going to do in part 2, because what I went to research and I saw that the Dre and Michelle situation. I was like, oh, y'all invited somebody else into a marriage. This is very dangerous. Now, that might not be the be all and end all as why that relationship came to a stop. But when you invite someone else into a marriage, quote unquote, potentially, then this is a very dangerous thing to do, because it increases the level of dissatisfaction. Because here's the reality: if you add somebody else into a relationship, that's a shiny new toy. The shiny new toy increases the pleasure plateau. But guess what? When a shiny new toy leaves or has to be vacated from, what's going to happen is there's a gap between you and your pleasure plateau. There's a gap between so there's a drop from your pleasure plateau, which is a dissatisfaction. You know, when you drop from the pleasure plateau, what I mean by that is when you drop from where you're comfortable at where you guys have pleasure, right? So let's say I've got to a place where me and you, we like each other, Iman and Taylor, they love each other, they care about each other, the sex is good, we make good money, we're in career, we're business. We're kind of now in a routine now. We know what we're going to do each day, right? Then you invite someone else in, it elevates the pleasure plateau. We're excited by this new person coming in, it's shiny, right? That elevates the pleasure plateau. When that person leaves, though, your pleasure plateau is still here. You can't even see that. Your pleasure plateau is still here, but you have dropped your pleasure because that pleasure plateau only got an increase because there was an external factor, the extra woman or the extra man. Now, when you remove that extra person, your dissatisfaction drops. What's got to happen is there's got to be a repair of the loss of satisfaction. And it's what I quoted earlier on, which is we need to go back to physical and emotional intimacy. I need to spend more time with you. I need to get back into pair bonding, doing things that you like and things that interest you. I need to spend more time with you on that. I need to rid myself of these contemptuous thoughts. Am I getting jealous? Am I feeling some type of way? Insecurity can be built as well in these situations because once that extra person has been involved, do they pleasure you more than me? Like, oh, I see how you're looking at women. Now I'm looking at you some different way because I know I've exposed you to another woman. Are you looking at the woman in a particular way now? Do you flow that way after I saw what I saw in the bedroom? See, you're opening yourself up to certain things you don't want to. You're opening yourself up to certain things you just don't want to be opening yourself up to. You know, I always quote the Liam Neeson, you know, that when he didn't want his daughter to go to Paris. And the only reason why is because he's lived in the darkness and he knows what dark things are out there. When you know too much, it affects the way that you see things. When you know too much, it affects the way that you view things and how you see the world. And so, like for my instance, and my final thoughts is when I says, if you've cheated before, you now have a darker image of the world. Especially if you cheated before or you stole somebody's girl, you now know, whoa, 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 whoa. When you start seeing certain behaviors, other people are like, no, it's calm. You're like, no, 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 no. I know exactly where that leads. But now you look crazy because you've lived in a life that someone else has not lived. It's perception. Perception begins to change because it's been changed by the experience. And that changes your belief, and that then changes your attitude. And the attitude is what causes issues in the relationship because the person may not fully understand why you got this attitude. We're going to go in part two, but that 7-year itch is real. And it's not necessarily 7 years. It's normally between 4 and 7 years that usually people kind of fall into that place. But it doesn't really matter how many years it is, really. Know that your relationship will come to a place where you reach a pleasure plateau. The question is, will you input more coal into the fire to keep the engine running? Or will you say, I want to keep it the same way? The reality is the train is slowing down. You need to input more in order to the train to even keep up with the same speed it was once before. Okay, the consumption of the energy increases as your years go by. Like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button. Let me know your thoughts.